Let's now get the very latest from our New York correspondent, Sherwin Bryce-Pease. Sherwin, a very good afternoon to you. Wow, so much has happened since we last spoke. I was listening earlier on, J.D. Vance calling this a historic comeback at their early victory address. How have Americans in the main reacted to Trump's return to the White House, essentially?
Well, like we've been explaining, Unati, right, this is a country that is very divided. 50% of the country is devastated by this news, and 50% of the country is absolutely overjoyed. Historic comeback by the former president. He becomes the first president in over 100 years to win re-election after losing his second term. So a non-consecutive term, making history in that sense. He will become the oldest president to be sworn in on January 20th, 2025, even eclipsing Joe Biden by about 5 months at the age of 78. J.D. Vance, you mentioned there, will be his vice president, replaced the historic first vice president of the United States in the likes of Kamala Harris, who had hoped to be giving a victory speech last night. But numbers just not on her side, and I'm going to reflect that on the board behind me. She is, though, Unati, Kamala Harris, that is expected to address the nation at some point today. We still don't have a specific time. But let's talk about the Electoral College, right? Donald Trump also, of course, leading in vote at this time, around 71 million votes for Donald Trump, 6 million votes for Kamala Harris. But of course, popular votes don't elect presidents. It's the Electoral College. So let's look at the map behind me. And remember, we had been talking, of course, in the weeks leading up to this about the critical swing states. So let's focus on the critical swing states, the traditional bastions for both the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, pretty much going as one might have expected. Your New Yorks and your Californias in Kamala Harris's column. Donald Trump winning places like Florida, Texas, Alabama, Mississippi. But it came down to the swing states. And the first swing state to be called for Donald Trump last night was the state of North Carolina. The state of North Carolina, following very shortly after that, the state of Georgia, which is now in red, Republican red, winning the state of Georgia. And at that point, Unati, the window for Harris's victory via the Electoral College was quite narrowed. She then had to win Pennsylvania, in particular Wisconsin and Michigan. And what then happened? Pennsylvania was called. It's now in red, Donald Trump winning the 19 Electoral College votes. And the state that put Donald Trump over the 270, right, the 270 votes required to win the Electoral College, Wisconsin, went into Donald Trump's column, and that was the end of the story. Let me just give you some of the demographic breakdowns that we are getting in terms of how the various demographics voted. White men, 59% for Trump, 39% for Harris. White women, there was a lot of speculation if women might turn out en masse for Kamala Harris, given that abortion and reproductive rights, access to abortion, was such a central issue of her campaign. White women breaking for Kamala Harris, and breaking for Donald Trump, excuse me, and white women represent the largest demographic voting bloc in the United States. They broke for Trump, 52% to Harris's 47%. Black men, 78% for Harris, 20% for Trump. So an incremental lead, increase there for Donald Trump among black men. Black women, 92% for Harris, 8% for Trump. And Latino men, a big shift in Latino men, male vote here, 54% for Donald Trump and 44% for Harris. So that's how the chips fell. Donald Trump with an overwhelming victory, leading in the popular. The first time he looks set to win the popular vote as a Republican president after George W. Bush in 2004.
And in fact, he did mention that one, saying that it was very nice that he has won, the popular vote. But just having listened to, what you were saying about the demographics and how they voted, as we look forward to what Kamala Harris is about to say and her speech, what do you think are some of the key areas of focus she'll probably pay attention to? Because this was a devastating loss for the Democrats, but also for Kamala Harris, who really started on very strong in the beginning of this race.
I think she's going to, speak about pretty much how she closed her campaign on those steps in Philadelphia. She had put forward a message of unity. She talked about having people that disagree with you at the table. So I imagine that she's going to talk about America's place in the world. I imagine she's going to talk about America's democracy and the importance of American democratic institutions. But she's obviously, I think, going to lean towards a message of unity here. She's going to talk about how the election integrity stood up despite the aspersions that were cast. What you're not hearing from the Trump campaign today is that this election wasn't free and fair, which was a big concern of his leading up to this poll. And it was clear that had he lost, that was certainly going to be the narrative. Of course, that narrative has gone away. So I think Kamala Harris will come and affirm the institutions of American democracy. She is still the sitting vice president. She's still in power right now. And so she will try to undergird America's place in the world and talk about, her vision for the America that she sees, right? In the vein of Ronald Reagan, that described America as that shining city on a hill. I don't think this is going to be a divisive speech at all. She will concede the election. She will congratulate Donald Trump. Pretty much what he should have done 4 years ago.
All right, so thank you so much, Sherwin, for that, of course, just giving us an update and also reaction there. But we'll continue, of course, to monitor developments. And also the next big question, of course, is what are the immediate next steps? Sherwin, thank you so much for your time. Sherwin Bryce-Pease there, our correspondent from New York.